Welcome, dear viewers, to the Oriental Vitality Studio. People who live long after the age of 50 will typically have 5 classic characteristics when they sleep. If you have 3 out of 5, then congratulations, dear friends. The period after age 50 is a time of risk for the body. If you still have these 5 signs when you sleep, it indicates the potential for a long life. About 1/3 of a person's life is spent sleeping. Poor sleep has a negative impact on hormones, exercise performance, and brain function. Therefore, good sleep is just as important as regular exercise and a healthy diet. It is also a manifestation of a healthy body and the foundation for extending lifespan. Typically, long-lived individuals will have the following 5 signs when they sleep. If you have 3 or more of these signs, congratulations, you also have the potential for a long life. 1. Warm hands and feet. Normally, when sleeping, the body automatically adjusts to adapt to the ambient temperature. However, some people experience cold hands and feet after falling asleep, and in some cases, they even wake up feeling intensely cold. If this phenomenon occurs frequently, it is very likely due to a functional disorder of the heart. In reality, the distance from the hands and feet to the heart is the farthest. If the heart beats too slowly or unstably, the hands and feet will not be supplied with enough blood. This prolonged condition can lead to cold hands and feet. Therefore, if your hands and feet remain warm when you sleep, it proves that your cardiovascular system is very strong and healthy, and you have the potential for a long life. 2. Falling asleep easily without nightmares. People with poor heart function often find it difficult to fall asleep or suffer from insomnia at night. Sometimes, even when they are sleeping soundly, they wake up in the middle of the night due to nightmares. The reason is that when the heart functions poorly, it affects the blood supply to the brain. Insufficient blood flow to the brain leads to cerebral ischemia, which over time affects the quality of sleep. If you can quickly fall asleep at night without being awakened by nightmares, it means your heart and body are healthy. 3. Not snoring while sleeping. Many people think that snoring is a sign of quality sleep. However, this is a misconception. In reality, snoring is a condition related to many causes, including poor cardiopulmonary function. Studies have found that people who snore for a long time have a heart attack rate many times higher than healthy people. Therefore, people who snore for a long time should go to the hospital to check their cardiopulmonary function to prevent unnecessary risks. 4. Sleeping straight through until morning. Long-lived individuals often have the ability to fall asleep very quickly. In fact, falling asleep quickly is also a sign of a healthy body from within, indicating good sleep quality and a healthy body. Insomnia or waking up to urinate at night is common in some people, often due to weakened kidney function, requiring them to immediately wake up to urinate several times, which affects sleep quality, and health will also decline. Therefore, if you often sleep straight through until morning, you have the potential to extend your lifespan. 5. No coughing or difficulty breathing. Coughing is usually a symptom of a cold, but if an elderly person frequently coughs while sleeping at night, attention should be paid. This could very well be a sign of heart disease, and in severe cases, it can even lead to asthma. Middle-aged and elderly people with a history of high blood pressure or heart disease are very susceptible to this condition, so they need to be careful. Besides, if you often feel chest tightness and shortness of breath after falling asleep, it also means that your cardiopulmonary function may be impaired. When cardiopulmonary function is impaired, the amount of blood supplied to the lungs will be affected, which gradually affects human respiration due to local ischemia. If you often feel chest tightness and shortness of breath after falling asleep, you should engage in more aerobic exercise, such as swimming. If your breathing is especially smooth while sleeping, it means your heart is healthy and you also have the potential for a long life. Physical signs of a long-lived person. The ancients had a saying that a person's life is hidden on their face, and by looking at the face, one can recognize whether a person has the potential for longevity. 6. Rosy complexion. Through the complexion, one can see the inner workings of a person's body. If that person has a rosy complexion, the chi, vital energy, and blood are circulating very well in a healthy body. When people reach middle age, body functions decline, and poor circulation of qi and blood often leads to dark lips and dull skin. These are all signs that qi, blood, and jing essence have been damaged. If your complexion is still rosy after age 70, congratulations, you have the constitution for longevity. A British professor also conducted an experiment by surveying 1,826 pairs of twin for 70 and found that people with better skin and a younger appearance tended to live longer, while those who looked older often died sooner. 7. Long, thick ears. Traditional Chinese medicine believes that long, thick ears are a sign of sufficient kidney qi. Studies have found that people with longer, thicker ears have a higher life expectancy. A professor at Beijing Capital Medical University in China said that the survey showed the ears of people who lived to 100 were all over 8 centimeters long, and those with ears over 7.1 centimeters could live to over 90. 8. Strong teeth. The teeth of most long-lived individuals are still straight and retain full function. Especially for people over 80, if they retain 20 functional chewing teeth, this is definitely a characteristic of longevity. A study recently published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society showed that oral health can be a predictor of a long life. Many previous studies have also shown that tooth loss predicts a shortened lifespan. Poor oral health is linked to many chronic diseases. The study found that oral bacteria and severe gingivitis may be the cause of heart disease, arterial sclerosis, stroke, pneumonia, and osteoporosis. 4. Slender waist and moderate build. After getting old, if many people do not pay attention to controlling their diet, they will easily develop abdominal obesity. Especially for women, a large waistline is not good for health. American researchers surveyed nearly 45,000 women and found that those with a waist circumference over 89 centimeters had a mortality risk up to 79% higher than those with a waist circumference under 71 centimeters. The World Cancer Research Fund also found that for every 2.54 centimeters increase in waist measurement, the risk of cancer can increase eightfold. Short stature. In reality, there is some evidence that there is a certain correlation between lifespan and a person's physical appearance. A survey of centenarians conducted on 200 men and 400 women showed that the average height for men was 1.67 meters and for women was 1.57 meters. Short people often have more longevity genes in their bodies. Therefore, if you are short, don't be too self-conscious because in reality this is also an advantage. Who knows, longevity might find you. Dear viewers, if you don't have many of the above characteristics, experts advise you to cultivate good habits, and maybe you can still achieve a long-lived physique. First, maintain a stable mindset. Most long-lived people have an open and generous attitude. No matter what happens, they will not let small matters affect their mood. Additionally, you should exercise more, quit alcohol and smoking, have regular bowel movements and urination, and drinking green tea is considered a way to longevity because green tea can promote intestinal peristalsis, accelerate metabolism, excrete toxins and metabolic wastes accumulated in the body, helping the body become healthier and the internal environment cleaner. 5 signs in people over 60 that signal a long life. Dear viewers, as we get older, to know whether our body is good or not, we often have to go for checkups and also need to observe our body's activities. Regardless of gender, if you still have the following 5 signs after the age of 60, it signals longevity. 6. Good-looking complexion. Elderly people with a good mental state are likely to live longer and avoid disease. On the other hand, we must look at the complexion. If an elderly person looks rosy, they must be healthy. If they look pale or dull, one must be highly vigilant against diseases. For example, severe anemia can make the skin pale. Some people with liver disease, kidney disease, lung disease or heart disease can have a dark complexion. 7. Steady gait. Walking can train the body, and whether a person can live long can also be seen from their gait. If they walk vigorously and their gait is steady with no swaying, it clearly indicates good health. 8. Strong teeth. The WHO standard for oral health is that an 80-year-old person must have at least 20 functional teeth, meaning teeth that can chew food normally and are not loose in order to have good health. These are truly important factors that affect health. Besides, as people get older, stomach and intestinal diseases are more easily damaged. Digestive diseases not only endanger health but also affect lifespan. 9. Smooth breathing. As they get older, many elderly people suffer from cardiopulmonary diseases. When heart disease strikes, the volume of activity decreases. The clearest manifestation is the inability to climb stairs. Many people cannot endure climbing even one floor, and some gasp for breath after moving. For the elderly, decreased cardiopulmonary function certainly leads to a very poor quality of life. People with normal cardiopulmonary function can breathe easily and climb stairs without any problems. 10. No numbness in hands and feet, no headaches or dizziness. For the elderly, a stroke is one of the most frightening diseases that can threaten life and cause disability. People who suffer a stroke are prone to cold, numb hands and feet, poor movement, dizziness, and headaches. Even if a life is saved after a stroke, the sequelae can affect the elderly person for the rest of their life, such as hemiplegia, loss of self-care ability, malnutrition, joint stiffness, muscle atrophy, and bed sores. Dear viewers, scientific research proves that people with short lifespans and people with long lifespans have 4 differences. Just proceed slowly and calmly, not seeking speed, but only stability. That is the Tao of longevity. The ancients said, life and death are great events. In this world, besides life and death being big matters, everything else is trivial. The essence of life and death is the 2 words we often mention, lifespan. There are many factors that determine a person's lifespan. Many people believe that life and death are destined and wealth is determined by heaven. Ultimately, a person's lifespan is not decided by us, but entirely by heaven. In fact, this saying is not entirely wrong, but it is somewhat unhelpful because everything is influenced by 3 factors. Tien Thoi, heaven's time, opportunity, Dialoi, earth's advantage, location, and Nyan Hoa, human harmony, effort. Tien Thoi is heaven's will. We cannot intervene, but we can completely intervene in Nyan Hoa, which means starting to change ourselves and making our lives brighter. In fact, there are 4 differences between long-lived and short-lived people. We can pay attention to and change accordingly. 1. Long-lived people are generous and open-minded. Short-lived people are calculating and petty. A person's heart and mind often determine how far they can go. Take the example of Sima Yi and Zhou Yu in the Romance of the 3 Kingdoms to understand more clearly. Zhou Yu was too narrow-minded and calculating in many matters. He died very young, and what's more, he died of anger, and the person who angered him was Zhuge Liang. And what about Sima Yi? Sima Yi was the kind of person who was outwardly dull but inwardly sharp. No matter how much Zhuge Liang provoked him, even if he secretly insulted Sima Yi as a woman, Sima Yi would not get angry, would not come out to fight, and stubbornly continued his defensive strategy. He was not angry about being insulted. 2 people were angered by the same person, but one died of anger, and the other lived very long, not only living longer than his own lord, but also longer than other heroes, eventually unifying the 3 kingdoms and ruling the world. This is the difference between a long-lived person and a short-lived person. If a person is too calculating and petty about a very small matter, negative emotions will easily arise. Ultimately, these negative emotions will affect physical health, keeping the body in a tired and weak state. How can such a person live long? Conversely, a person who is generous, doesn't hold grudges, knows what is important and what is not, and can forgive everything, will achieve unexpected results. 2. Long-lived people are calm. Short-lived people are always anxious. Wang Yangming, a famous Chinese philosopher, believed that the essence of self-cultivation is cultivating the mind. We often think that cultivating the mind is merely maintaining a positive attitude. This is only half right. What is cultivating the mind? Cultivating the mind is the integration between the human heart and all things in nature, without being interfered with or disturbed by the external world, following nature. The so-called unity of heaven and man means this. If you can make your own heart harmonize with all things in nature, life will certainly be much more comfortable. Generally speaking, a long-lived person does not have the mindset of seeking longevity. They all believe that living each day to the fullest is enough. They live calmly and peacefully. Because of this comfortable and carefree mindset, they live long. However, many people are sad today and angry tomorrow, living in such a psychological environment. How can they live long? Therefore, keep a calm, relaxed, carefree mind and follow nature. That is enough. 3. Long-lived people are not calculating. Short-lived people are greedy. A person who is too greedy for wealth will eventually only become poor, because if a person is too greedy, nature will not keep anything for them. A person who is too obsessed with longevity will definitely not live long because they are too calculating, and this goes against nature. And nature, think about the emperors of the past. They had the highest power and everything in their hands, but many of them died early just because of elixirs or immortality pills. The reason for this consequence is that they were too obsessed with what is called longevity. As for modern people, we like to take all kinds of different functional foods, thinking that taking them will prevent all diseases and lead to a long life. This way of thinking is skewed. There is a very practical truth. If functional foods could truly make people live to 100, wouldn't all rich people live that long? As a person, don't be too obsessed or calculating about anything. Many times, not intentionally doing something leads to a perfect result. 4. Long-lived people improve gradually. Short-lived people deplete themselves. In this world, the water source of the great ocean is endless and continuous. If we want to live better, we need to understand the wisdom of water and become a person like water. Being like water means letting yourself follow the orbit of destiny, not easily allowing major life changes, and especially not depleting yourself. A river flowing to the sea, as long as it flows slowly and calmly, will never dry up. But if it chooses to run very fast, it will evaporate very quickly. Being a person is also like that. Don't always rush and be in a hurry to get something immediately by sacrificing your own body and health. You need to know that energy is very difficult to replenish. Don't let it be completely exhausted. In summary, just proceed slowly and calmly, not seeking speed, but only stability. That is the Tao of longevity. Oriental Vitality Studio sincerely thanks the esteemed viewers for choosing to watch the video. Please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other interesting things. Everyone.